The 2024-25 season has been nothing short of chaos for Real Madrid. A season that began with blockbuster signings like Kylian Mbappé, with bold statements echoing through the footballing world. If Mbappé joins Madrid, it's not Barcelona who needs to prepare. It's the entire world. Quickly turned into a season of shattered expectations. Fans and pundits alike expected dominance, but what they got was one of Madrid's most underwhelming campaigns of the century. If Los Blancos fail to secure La Liga, this year will stand alongside some of their darkest chapters: the barren stretches of 2004-06, the painful dips of 2009-10, 2012-13, 2014-15, and the Ronaldo-less disappointments of 2018-19 and 2020-21. But here's the thing about Real Madrid: they always rise from the ashes. And now, all eyes are on one man to lead that resurrection: Xabi Alonso. The coincidences surrounding his arrival feel almost scripted by fate. Think about it: every time Madrid endured a collapse, they returned with historic triumphs. The most iconic example came a decade ago. After Sergio Ramos' immortal header against Atletico in the 2014 Champions League final, Madrid touched the sky. Yet the very next season, they collapsed. Despite a record-breaking 22-game winning streak and minor silverware like the Copa del Rey and Club World Cup, they crumbled where it mattered most. Second place in La Liga, a humiliating Copa exit in the round of 16, and a Champions League heartbreak against Juventus. Meanwhile, their fiercest rivals, Barcelona under Luis Enrique, completed a historic treble, reminding Madrid what true dominance looked like. Fast forward exactly 10 years later. The stage is set again. Madrid, battered and inconsistent in La Liga, are once more standing in the Champions League semi-finals, this time against Bayern Munich. A historic late comeback at the Santiago Bernabéu has breathed life back into the campaign. And in the middle of this storm, with pressure mounting and history threatening to repeat itself, a new savior waits in the shadows. Xabi Alonso, a former midfield general, a student of Madridismo, and a rising coaching mastermind. Just like Zidane a decade ago, Alonso enters with limited top-level managerial experience but an undeniable connection to the club's DNA. The coincidences are staggering, almost prophetic. So the question is no longer if Madrid will rise again; they always do. The real question is Xabi Alonso destined to be the man who delivers the next great Real Madrid era? Fresh off yet another European triumph, a commanding 2-0 victory over Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final, Real Madrid looked untouchable. But football has a cruel way of humbling even the greatest. Fast forward a year, and Los Blancos find themselves in unfamiliar territory. Already eliminated from the Champions League, knocked out of the Copa del Rey, and clinging to fading hopes in La Liga. The mighty empire is wobbling. Meanwhile, their eternal rivals Barcelona are experiencing the complete opposite. The Catalans are flying, scoring goals with the same ease and swagger that once defined the golden era of Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. Back in 2015, that legendary trio carried Barca to their last treble. Today, a new frontline has emerged: Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, and Robert Lewandowski. Together, they've already delivered silverware in the Copa del Rey. They sit comfortably at the summit of La Liga, and they are just 2 steps away from a Champions League crown. Put simply, the dream of a second treble exactly a decade after their last is alive and breathing. And yet, the story doesn't end there, because destiny seems to be repeating itself in the most poetic way possible. At the end of that 2015 season, Carlo Ancelotti walked away, and Real Madrid took a gamble that changed football forever. They appointed Zinedine Zidane, a club legend with almost no managerial experience. The result? An unprecedented hat-trick of Champions League titles, a golden chapter in Madrid's history that nobody saw coming. Now, 10 years later, history is writing the same script. In 2025, another club legend stands ready to take the reins: Xabi Alonso. His managerial rise has been nothing short of remarkable, transforming Bayer Leverkusen into domestic champions, guiding them to a Europa League final, and proving his tactical brilliance on the biggest stages. Alonso is no longer just a former midfielder with a legendary Madrid past. He's a manager whose philosophy mirrors the very DNA of the club. So here's the burning question: is Xabi Alonso truly ready to lead Real Madrid? Logic says yes. His silverware, his experience at the highest level, and his tactical identity all scream readiness. History says yes too, because exactly a decade ago, Zidane stood in the same place. After Rafa Benitez's disastrous spell, Madrid made a bold, almost reckless choice to hand the keys to an unproven icon. It turned into one of the most successful gambles in football history. And now, with Alonso, the cycle might just be repeating. The stars are aligning, the stage is set, and the echoes of 2015 are louder than ever. When Real Madrid handed the reins to Zinedine Zidane in 2016, it was a gamble that shocked the football world. Zidane, a club legend with limited managerial experience, had only led Real Madrid Castilla and briefly assisted Carlo Ancelotti. By every traditional measure, he wasn't ready. But what he lacked in experience, he made up for with something far more powerful: a deep understanding of the club's DNA. He embodied its culture, its values, its relentless hunger for glory. And what followed was nothing short of historic: 3 consecutive Champions League titles, an era no one has been able to replicate. Now, the parallels with Xabi Alonso are impossible to ignore, though Alonso's path carries a different weight. Unlike Zidane, who had never managed a professional side before Madrid, Alonso has already proven himself in the trenches of elite football. In Germany, he turned Bayer Leverkusen from outsiders into giants, delivering the Bundesliga title, lifting the DFB Pokal, and coming within touching distance of a historic treble, only falling short in the Europa League final against Atlanta. Still, the message was clear: Alonso isn't just a rising coach, he's a force of nature. And that raises the question: if an inexperienced Zidane could conquer Europe 3 years running, what's the ceiling for Real Madrid under Alonso? History shows us that when great players step into the dugout at clubs they once called home, magic often follows. Carlo Ancelotti at AC Milan. Johan Cruyff at Barcelona. Pep Guardiola, too. Each of them carried the spirit of the club into their managerial reign, turning memory into legacy. And Alonso fits this lineage perfectly.
Why?
Because his teams, just like Real Madrid, are built on resilience. Think about it: Madrid's greatest modern moments weren't forged in comfort, but in crisis. Sergio Ramos' 93rd minute header in Lisbon. Benzema's ice-cold penalties against City. The 17-minute blitz against PSG. Time and again, Madrid have risen from the brink. And in Alonso's Leverkusen, we see the same fire. During their 2023-24 fairytale run, they trailed in 15 matches across all competitions, and came back to win 11 of them. Not scrape a draw. Win. Last-gasp turnarounds, like the Hoffenheim clash where a 1-0 deficit became a 2-1 victory in stoppage time, became part of their identity. This is the very heartbeat of Real Madrid. Never surrender. Never stop believing. Never accept defeat. And now, Xabi Alonso, a man who lived those values as a player and has rebuilt them into his teams as a manager, stands on the brink of returning home. So the real question is no longer whether he's ready. The question is Europe ready for Xabi Alonso's Real Madrid? It was the absurd Europa League quarterfinal against Coda that summed up Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen best. With the clock already past 90, striker Patrick Schick produced the impossible. Not once, but twice. A 90-plus 3-foot equalizer to keep the dream alive. And then, in the 90-plus 7-foot, a cold-blooded winner that sent his team into the next round. 2 goals in stoppage time, 2 goals that felt like something out of a movie. And believe it or not, those were just 2 chapters in a season full of miracles. Because throughout the 2023-24 campaign, Leverkusen made injury time comebacks their signature weapon. They scored 17 goals after the 90th minute and 34 after the 80th, protecting a mind-blowing 51-game unbeaten run. The internet went crazy. Memes exploded everywhere. People couldn't believe it. What used to be called Fergie Time was now being renamed Chabby Time. The numbers back it up too. Leverkusen clawed back 35 points from losing positions, the most in Europe's top 5 leagues not just last season, but possibly in the entire decade. It wasn't luck. It wasn't coincidence. It was pure mentality. A refusal to quit. A belief that the game isn't over until the whistle blows. And that, right there, is why Real Madrid fans can't stop asking, what's holding up Xabi Alonso's move to the Bernabéu? Because this mindset, this never-say-die aura, is exactly what Madrid has been built on for the last decade. Alonso hasn't just built a system at Leverkusen, he's built a mentality. The same mentality once embodied by Carlo Ancelotti. The same mentality that gave us Sergio Ramos in Lisbon, Benzema against City, and all the other nights of impossible comebacks. Now, with Ancelotti nearing the end of his journey, it feels almost inevitable that Alonso becomes his spiritual heir. The passing of the torch, from the 65-year-old master to the 43-year-old apprentice ready to rule. And Madridistas might have even more reason to get excited. Because if Alonso does arrive, he could bring with him the perfect replacement for Toni Kroos, Martín Zubimendi. Alonso has always been a huge admirer of the midfielder, once calling him a player who always thinks of his teammates before himself. A selfless brain in midfield. A quiet leader. And as fate would have it, Alonso and Zubimendi already worked together back at Real Sociedad B. Could destiny really bring them both to Madrid together? So we'll leave it with you. Is Xabi Alonso the chosen one to inherit the Bernabéu throne? And would Zubimendi be the perfect successor to Kroos? Drop your answers in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe because the Alonso era might just be about to begin.